Hi, welcome to Shelf Starters and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
We took a nice long break. We didn't actually plan really to have a long break. We were thinking about all these different videos that we could film over this time, but things got very busy over the Christmas period, as they often do.
Somehow.
Yeah, and I think there's been plenty of content out there anyway over Christmas, so I'm sure no one was like desperate for us. So we thought we would come back and tell you what we've been reading over this period. So do you want to start, Mum? Because
yes, because I've read far less than you, Rosie, because we had a holiday with my brother's family and younger children, and just, I don't know, for some reason, I guess when you're in a household of people, sometimes you have less time to yourself than you imagine. But I did get some done, and we also managed to get to the Byron Bay bookshop, which is a really good bookshop. And it was fun to actually help my 16-year-old niece choose some books. And she's reading some really good stuff. Like she's reading Murakami, and it was actually really fun. Anyway, what did I kick off with? I think the first one I read was The Promise. The
Booker winner.
Yes, exactly, the Booker Prize winner. And I enjoyed it very much. It reminded me in premise and really actually in style. It reminded me a lot of Faulkner and As I Lay Dying, where you get the different perspectives on a person, in this case, on the different perspectives on whether or not they should honour the will and leave the slave the land. And,
okay. This is in South Africa, right?
Yeah, right. So it's actually, it was all the different perspectives of family members on the whole thing. And it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's funny when you read a book like that, I think, when you have multiple perspectives, because the very idea is that you're really not supposed to identify too heavily with any one character, I suppose. So that you do see that there is no one perspective on anything in a very kind of postmodern world. And I don't mind that, but I know a lot of readers find that difficult, that part of the joy of reading is in fact identifying very heavily with a character whose narrative it is. So, but I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was really good. So that was my first read. The next one I read was just a short story, which was the F. Scott Fitzgerald, A Diamond as Big as the Ritz, which was a kind of ridiculous, or it was meant to be ridiculous, and it was ridiculous, kind of a fantasy, just a giant metaphor, really, for a cynical view on society, as F. Scott Fitzgerald is famous for. But of course, it's really hard to read him now because nothing is as good, obviously, as Gatsby. And so that's the perennial issue. The more you can kind of dig deeper and find, this was a short story published in 1922 in a magazine, probably the New Yorker even. But it was good writing, but just not anything on Gatsby. Did make me want to go to Montana, I've got to say. Yeah. So anyway, and very quick read, very tiny short story. What else did I read? I read a thriller, which is the one by Harris, the Chocolat author.
Joanne Harris. Yeah.
Yes. So Narrow Door, it's called. And it was a thriller set in a school. And it was, easy read, great holiday, great lie on the beach type read. Not nearly as meaty as The Secret History. Not that kind of kind of, intensity. Not that intensity, but an easy read and enjoyable. So that was good.
Because you hardly ever read thrillers. So
I never do. I actually really don't read thrillers at all. So for me, it was a kind of a sidebar, and I liked it. I did. What else did I read? Oh, yes, Little Women, I did a return to Little Women because I'm going to be looking at that and the most recent film version, which, you know, the recent film version changed the whole narrative structure. You know, having kept going back and forward in the film. So it's kind of interesting to think about why that was necessary when you read the original novel. I mean, when you read the original novel and then you watch the new version of the film, it's the characterization remains so close, apart from Amy, perhaps. But
yeah, that's true. Actually, Amy's much nicer in the film.
Yes, she really is. But other than that, the characters are all pretty much the same. The language is the same. You know, it's just so everything works from that novel to read and look at now. But they've changed the structure. I honestly think, I'm not sure that there was no other reason other than to modernize it.
I also think a bit. I think it might have been a bit for the end bit where they do a lot more about the actual author's backstory and linking that to Little Women. So I think the structure kind of played into that, like getting to that a bit.
I guess that's right, and it also did, in fact, speed up the storytelling.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and I think that's possibly the main thing that they wanted to achieve. Anyway, it was a good exercise to go back and read the book because you think you know it really well because you've known it for so long. But there's, you know, there are bits that you definitely and I think it does really well on a rereading, really well. So
I thought that not that long ago as well, and I was quite impressed. I think as a child I didn't like it that much because I hated Amy.
That's right. It was less. It was probably. It probably was too slow for a child reader.
Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I know she had an awful lot of trouble getting published, didn't she?
Yeah, but that was more sexism, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that and they wanted happy ending. They wanted, you know, a girl to be a girl, get married, you know, all of that. So there was a struggle there, and you know, the pace of it maybe was a deal. I don't know. Anyway, I enjoyed the rereading for sure. And what else did I read? Oh, I read a COVID one. Probably a little bit close.
Bit too soon.
Yeah, too soon. It's called Our Country Friends by I think his name is, you pronounce it, Gary Steingart, I think.
So I looked this up, and it's not out in the UK yet. So I think it's coming out this month.
Oh, okay. So look, it's very the characters are very American, well, obviously, and it is their version of COVID, and it's in the early times of COVID rather than in the obviously the very, very recent times. But so yeah, it's quite hard, it turns out. I mean, when I selected that, actually I selected it at the Byron Bay bookshop because the owner of the bookstore was really well read and I was really interested in her perspectives on lots
and she liked it.
She liked it. But then I thought, I read it and I was like, I mean, I guess we're freshly in new rounds of COVID, so that didn't make it any easier. But
it was the concept was that they were all isolating in a big house together.
They isolated a big house together, like one of them owns the big place and they all go there. And it's kind of like the Big Chill concept, as in people gathered together who have known each other for a long time but might not have necessarily seen each other for a long time. And then sort of more recent people as well, like partners and things. But the Big Chill was 100 times better, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, because that had, well, I guess the Big Chill was the original concept to start with. But also the characters were really quirky and interesting and developed, and the relationships were really complex. Whereas these characters were not complex or quirky. And I didn't really like any of them very much, to be honest. Maybe they were difficult because it was COVID times, so no one's easy. I don't know. But I didn't like them. So, look, it's not hard. It was like I literally read it in a day. But it's not one I would kind of burn towards the bookshop to get hold of. Got to say.
Yeah, I'm interested in it because I like the concept of friends isolating together is interesting. But so
it was all about looking after self, really. So it wasn't. There's not a lot of give. There's not a lot of thinking about the rest of the world or the people who aren't privileged enough to have a rolling great mansion that they could fit all their friends in. So I kind of didn't like, I kind of resented it a bit, to be completely honest. But I read it. And then there are 3 I haven't read that I'm in the process of reading. So
about
acting as a holiday.
You read that one?
Which one?
What about Eleanor Oliphant?
Oh yes, of course. How can I forget? Well, we did that on audio, and that worked brilliantly on audio. It was really good. That completely interesting, because a character who is really, really funny, and the quirkiness of the character. I mean, beyond
unreliable reader as well.
Yeah, fun. So that's actually fun to read, and you can have a good laugh. So I enjoyed that. Yeah. And it was the version we heard was really, really well read, and just really worked. So there's a few. And then I've got 3 more that I had on my list at the beginning that I haven't yet read. So I've just started Voss, Patrick White's book, but I still haven't done Sanditon or Benevolence. And both I will finish. I will just behave as though I'm still on holidays and read those very
still read.
Yes. Yeah, but not all day.
Not all day.
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, I have quite a stack. I put them in order, so it's just order that I read them in.
Not order you read, not order of preference.
Not order of preference. Anyway, so I had a bit of a saga. I went to France to spend Christmas with my boyfriend's family, and so I had to get there before they put the new restrictions in, banning UK from France. So I went a little bit earlier than I expected and had a spontaneous weekend in Paris, which you can never complain about. So I of course Shakespeare & Co. And got some books there and got really into Paris. Like, I've lived in Paris before, so it wasn't new to me, but it was lovely to just like walk through and just be traveling on your own and get to see whatever you want and just think about it and feel very
fun to be there in that spontaneous way, to not necessarily
really fun.
And definitely being alone.
Yeah, because I could also, being alone, benefit of being alone, anytime you go and eat anywhere, you can read.
Yeah.
So I brought my books everywhere I went in Paris, and I had a great time. So I got, to get really in the Paris mood, I got 2 Hemingway books, and I also got 1 Fitzgerald book, but I didn't get to it. So first one was A Movable Feast.
Yes.
And it is like autobiography, but it's of a very short period of time in his life. And I love that Shakespeare & Co. stamps all the books as well.
I love that too. I love that.
And I loved this. I didn't know that I would, because I know about Hemingway and I know he's an awful guy, basically. And so I was like, I'm going to really enjoy like his actual life, because I'm going to be really annoyed with him the whole time. But I love this. This is just like the time that he was living in Paris and the people he was running into. So Fitzgerald is a huge part of the book, and then there's also like Gertrude Stein and like lots of other writers, and it's just him having a great time going to different bars and things. And it was great reading it while you're there, because you could go to the actual places. I did go to the restaurant that he's at like all the time.
Was that Les Deux Margots?
No, he does go there, but I have been there before, and I know it's a massive tourist trap, very expensive.
Yes, it is. So where was it? Do you remember the name?
I remember the name of it. I'll have to put it down in the description, because I can't remember it now. But he's there like all the time. He gets, his favorite thing that he gets there is like a plate of olives, oysters.
Yes.
And then he'll drink like a bottle of wine himself. That's his meal.
He's really good at. He was really good at that.
Yeah, a lot of drinking in this. I mean, this definitely showed me how much of an alcoholic he was. But then, so you're thinking the whole way, oh my God, every time he goes anywhere, he has a bottle of wine to himself. But then you get this huge section at the end where he's with Fitzgerald, and he's going, oh, Fitzgerald drinks too much. And you're like, oh wow.
Quite calling people black.
It was a lot of alcoholism going on there, but in a really interesting way. And it had a lot of commentary on Zelda as well at the end, and it was just so fascinating. So I loved this. Oh yeah, I can tell you, I'm so dumb, this is the picture of the place that I'm talking about. That's it.
Okay. The closery. Okay.
Yeah. And it does look like
can you remember where that is in Paris, Rosie?
Yeah, it was not far from my hotel.
Which arrondissement were you in?
Montparnasse.
Okay. Yeah.
Honestly, early morning brain, all the names of places are just gone. Anyway, but yeah, it was very easy. It was like a 10-minute walk from my hotel. So I was like, when I found that out, it's so easy to go. And it felt very like sophisticated and nice. There was a man playing piano. It actually kind of felt like I was back in the 20s.
In the time.
Especially I went early as well before all the people came. So it was quite quiet and stuff. And anyway, that was great. And then I thought, maybe I actually secretly do love Hemingway, and I've never known this all this time. And so then I read The Sun Also Rises,
right,
which has a bit set in Paris, but it's also in Spain, because it's all about the bullfights. And I didn't like this.
No, that's a big no.
I actually originally gave it 3 stars, but I think it's got to go down to a 2, because every time I think back and I'm just like, this irritated me so much. It was just, it felt very sexist. It felt very like, it's just this guy loving this woman who's just very clear that she doesn't like him, and that's just like, it just goes on and on like that. And it's just, I don't know, the woman was annoying. I think it kind of suffered from that. It's kind of like what you said, that the big novel of this time was Great Gatsby, and everything else feels like an imitation. Which is really fair, because I think this was maybe published before that. I'm not even sure, but it kind of felt like that.
For whom the bell tolls is meant to be. I haven't read that, but that's meant to be the one to read.
I have read The Old Man and the Sea, and I liked that. So I know that, I'm just wondering if maybe I prefer Hemingway's like short stories rather than like full novels.
Maybe that was in fact his talent. I mean, it's a very simple style, isn't it? A very clear cut, succinct style.
And there's like funny, really like genuinely funny moments and things like that. Like he's witty. But I just found his characters insufferable. So that was the main issue there. And it felt like it was okay when it was real people, because you kind of knew that that's how they were. But I don't know, making characters like that, it was just, anyway. So that wasn't ideal. And then,
it's interesting. It always comes back to character, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with a character that you don't like. Like that can be really fun.
But what I mean is not liking the character necessarily, but the character needs to be really developed. You've got to get a very strong sense of voice, and you've got, you need to be able to immerse in a character, I think. Yeah. I think that's what we're saying.
And I think the problem with this one was the woman was so ridiculous that it just felt like this is an unfair portrait of a woman at this time.
Yes.
So I think that was the problem. Anyway, and then I read A Christmas Carol, and everyone knows what that's about, so I don't need to really explain that, but I listened to the audio version with Hugh Grant narrating it, and it was amazing. So well done. I loved it.
How good. Okay.
Yeah. So I would recommend that. That was really great for getting in the mood for Christmas. And then in a non-Christmassy way, I also read the 4th book of the Wheel of Time series.
The Wheel of Time. Yeah.
This is obviously the 4th book, so I don't want to like spoil the story that's come before, but if you are interested in Wheel of Time and stuff, I do have a full reading vlog that I'll link as well, where I read the first one in one day. And so I'm continuing. They're very long, but I'm slowing it down a little bit now so I can get other books in as well, because there are 15, including a little prequel. So if I just kept reading it, I would read nothing else. So, but I'm liking it. It's good. Happy to continue along with that. I also finished, in between that, I had a book on my Kindle, which was The Project by Courtney Summers. That is so Courtney Summers wrote Sadie, which was a podcast story, like one of those podcast mystery thrillers where a podcast guy is like solving a story, and it's got multiple perspectives. And the audiobook was great because it had like sound effects and everything. The Project I read on Kindle, and it was young adult as well, but in like more of a adult end of young adult, I'd say. Like it's got some serious themes in it. And it's about a girl whose sister joins a cult, and she's trying to find her. And it was just actually really quite good. I really did enjoy it. It was like quite gripping.
That's a really interesting one, isn't it?
I do find cults very interesting.
Yeah.
So
trying to find someone. That's fascinating, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's the cult part of it, and then there's also, they had it sort of starts with a family tragedy. So she's really been vulnerable at the time that she's gone to join this cult as well. So yeah, very, very good story, very well read, very well done. I really like Courtney Summers' thrillers. I hope she comes out with more like that. So yeah. Then I finished off this that I've been reading for a long time. Like, it's just been next to my bed and I pick it up every so often. Classic Tales of Horror.
Yes. And is it actual classics? Are we talking actual? Yeah. Oh, so like Edgar Allan Poe and people? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So it's it's mostly Victorian kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
well, that was the era, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But it also has Bram Stoker, Edgar Allan Poe,
so Dracula. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I didn't really realize he'd written anything but Dracula, but he has like little Dracula side stories and things as well.
No, so I don't know anything other than Dracula. Yeah.
Henry James, which I'd already read.
Is that the Turn of the Screw? Yes. Yes.
Yeah. M.R. James as well, which I've also read a lot of. And then a lot of French ones. There's a lot of French horror short stories as well, which I actually did study at uni, and they're good to read again, this time in English. So like Maupassant and Balzac. Do
they lose anything by reading them in English?
I didn't think so this time I read them, but it has been so long since I read the French that I couldn't really remember the story, but I felt like it was seamless translation, like you could read it and not feel like it was translated. So it was problem. Yeah, so that was really fun to get into. But I kind of like that period from Halloween to like throughout winter, where it just feels kind of nice to read like a little ghost story or something every so often. Yes, very like Victorian. I think that's kind of fun.
The opposite of us, it's like our summer that time.
I know, yeah, it's really quite dark. But anyway, for me, it's fun when it's like getting dark and cold and things, and you feel
for us, it's just getting hot and dry.
Not so perfect.
The sun makes for isolation. Yeah, just a different take.
And then this one also was just one I had by my bed and I was reading slowly. So this is short stories by Agatha Christie.
Oh yeah.
It's supposed to be Miss Marple ones, but I have to say, if you are interested in this, the majority of them are not Miss Marple. There's like 20, I think, that are Miss Marple stories, and the rest are like random characters. Right. Like it's a lot of sort of, more not in her like series kind of thing. But I love them. I actually quite like her short stories. I think they're just really fun and like snappy and always kind of funny at the end, not as like deep, I suppose, as the big novels. But I thought they were fun. I can imagine them being published in a magazine or something like that. Pretty good.
Right.
The problem with them is that you don't really remember them afterwards with the short stories. That's the thing. Like, they're fun at the time, but they don't stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whether that's important or not. Should I? And then this is the winner of the season for me. I was blown away by this book and I did not expect to be at all. It was such a great surprise. So I have read, like everyone, except Mum. So it's kind of me. Like everyone on YouTube, I have read A Little Life by Hannah Yanagihara. And it blew me away. I know a lot of people have problems with that book, but I adored it. Could not stop crying. And but also couldn't
explain why people have problems with it.
So a lot of people, it follows a group of friends in America, in New York, I think. And it is some of the things that happen to one character in particular. It's just like endless torture. And so people have talked about it as being torture porn, like that it's sort of unrealistic that this much bad stuff would happen to one person.
Yeah.
And it just like it's sort of manipulating the reader just to get something out of them. So but I found it although it was brutal, I thought it was also hopeful in a sense, and I thought the friendships were spectacular, and I just loved the characters so much, and that's what made it hurt so much more, because you just do absolutely fall in love with them. And I could not put it down. Like it's a long chunky book, and I think I read it in a day or two, because although it was hurting so much, I just couldn't stop. So I love that book. I read it years ago, and I knew that she had this one, The People in the Trees, as well, which I also bought years ago, but for some reason I haven't picked it up. Like I just wasn't sure that I would like it as much. And yeah, I also honestly think it might have been something to do with the size of the font, which is quite small.
Yeah, that's a legitimate thing. It can make you feel, very off-put.
Not wanting to pick something up when you've got something else. Yeah. But this I really do think was amazing. So it is quite different, but also does deal with some very dark themes and is quite upsetting at times. But it follows it's two perspectives. So one perspective is kind of like the frame story, which is this scientist who is friends with another scientist who has recently been put in prison. And he's saying, this guy is actually a great guy. He's completely misunderstood. And so I'm going to tell his story. And he communicates with him in prison and turns his letters into a book, basically, of his story. And the story is about the guy who's gone to prison, originally going to this island that no one had sort of been to before, discovering a people, like tribe, I suppose, and also discovering that they don't age. So there's something in the way that they're living that allows them to live far beyond normal human lifespan. So it's like this massive discovery that he makes, and it is just so brilliantly done. Her writing is beautiful. The questions that it's out, the moral questions, it's just very interesting because they're not likable characters, but at times you really do sympathize with this guy, even though it's clear like he is not a good person.
No, and using people.
Yeah, he's using them, like he's using them, but you're in his head, so you at times you sympathize with him.
Why he is. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, you sort of get it. And it's a fun format too, because it has like newspaper articles in bits and like letters and things. So it's not just straight narrative, and it also has footnotes from the scientist who's putting it all together into a book. So the one, I wish I had the names. So there's, I think it was, it's got the surnames, but I feel like it was Paul and someone. Anyway, but yeah, the one who's compiling it all and like framing the whole thing writes little footnotes next to bits that the other guy has written. So he'll like add more information or explain something. And it's interesting because they both have their own kind of agendas, so you can't really trust either of them. And very, very, very good. And she's got a new book out in literally a couple of
another one. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I
picked these two down.
Okay, cool. Because after years, like I think she hasn't written a book in so long, and I like just hadn't been picking this up. The reason I picked it up was because she's got this new book coming out in a couple of days, which is called, I don't remember. I've pre-ordered it. It's going to arrive. Let's check what it's actually called, and I don't know what it's about either. I think that there's different time periods. I think it's like interconnected stories over hundreds of years apart kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or even thousands of years apart, maybe. It is, so you can write this one down as well, To Paradise.
Okay.
Yep. By Hannah Yasuhara.
Got them all written down now. Okay.
Very good. Getting towards the end now, so, or at least over halfway. So then I went and bought it. So I found, this is like quite bad, but when you have money in your pockets that you just discover after a while, and it feels like, hey, you've like found on the floor, but it is your own money.
Yes.
You didn't know you had it.
Yes.
So I did that, found some money, and then thought, hey, that doesn't count to spending.
Buy books.
So I went to Waterstones. Yes, and I had a great day buying books that felt free. So that was really fun. And then I got to the till, and they had all the little short books at the front to tempt you, and I did get tempted. So I got a little one that is by P.D. James, The Part-Time Job, and it's just a little like mystery book, like she writes. And I can't say too much about it because it does have like a nice little twist that I don't want to spoil. But it is like a revenge.
Don't spoil it for everyone else.
Yeah. It was fun. So it was cute. It's so tiny that I literally finished it on the tube home. But anyway, was it worth £3.50? I don't know. Then read this one, which actually was kind of disappointing. It was only okay. Small game hunting at the local Coward Gun Club, which I felt like was a very good read for winter. It's all, set in a small town in deep snow, I think I want to say Canada. It felt Canadian. I will clarify that if I am wrong. But it was just following many different characters in this small town, all of them leading awful lives, just in really difficult circumstances, like very, very like working class, a lot of sexism. And the problem with it was I didn't feel enough for any of these characters, and there were awful things happening to them. I knew what I was supposed to be feeling, and I didn't really feel it. And I just felt annoyed by how much sexual abuse was going on, without actually feeling like sad about it in a way, which felt wrong.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So I thought that was disappointing. Like, it's just the male characters are disgusting in this book, and all the women have like horrible things happening to them. And it's just, I don't know. I think it was too much without enough focus.
I was just going to say, it's just actually too much. You can't.
Yeah, I think it was because it wasn't like there was one big event that was like, oh, this is shocking and horrible. It just was constant, and so it kind of lost the impact, I think, in a way. It was well written, but it was also, the style was weird because it kind of had this distancing style that you felt a bit like separated from it. Can't really explain it, but it did sort of put you at a distance, but then was like trying to make you feel things. I don't know, it just was hard. So I thought it was still okay for the skill and the and what it was saying and things was clever, but I just didn't love it, and that was disappointing. So yeah. And then I read a really bad one, which other people have loved. So I don't know if it's a thriller, and I think I've read so many now I can be kind of picky about them. So this was Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. And it was about a woman who has a sister with Down syndrome who she looks after a lot of the time because her parents sort of struggle with the whole thing. And they're really close. They have this like great sister bond. And she meets this man who, for the first time in her life, is like actually happy to take on her sister as well. And it's not like this extra baggage kind of thing like other men have seen it. So she gets completely swept up by him. They get like a rush marriage and things. And then there's this darker side to him that then turns everything completely wrong. And it gets like, it's not really a mystery kind of thriller. It's more like, you know exactly what's going on. There's no hiding that this man is awful. It's more, how is she going to get out of this situation? Right. And it's intense, and it keeps you reading. Like, I did read it nonstop, but I just hated it at the same time. I hated the main character, the woman. I just felt like her decisions were completely stupid. It was very apparent to me very early on that this guy was awful, and I just felt like she was set up to be a super smart, super like successful woman, and then somehow was completely tricked by this man. And it was just like, I feel like she would act smarter than this. And he was just like, he had no depth to him at all. Like, he's the villain, but I prefer a villain where there's more reason for why he's disgusting. But nothing. It's like it hinted at stuff and then never explained it. Like, it never actually went there to explain why he was like this. So anyway, so I wouldn't recommend that. Other people have loved it, but I suspect it's just because it is such a page turner. And people love that feeling of getting swept up in a book. But I think it was a page turner for kind of like a cheap reason. So then 10,000 Doors of January, which I read because, again, it's been one that's been sitting on my shelves for ages, haven't picked it up, and for some reason I felt like I should read it in January. But but it's not actually about the January, the season. The main character's name is January.
I actually think it's a great name for some reason. I just like that name.
It's kind of cute. It does talk about like why she was called that. It's kind of like the beginning of the year hope. It's kind of nice. I think it's quite a good name. And this was quite a good book as well. Just like, it was okay. It wasn't amazing, but it's kind of that light fantasy that I am more on board with, where it feels more literary and less like a big world that you have to unpack. It was just like, she's a ward to this very rich man. Her father is still alive, but he's off doing business like in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like not our world, it's a different world. And it's like a big old house that she's exploring and things, and she finds this book that's a magic book that can take her through to different worlds. So it's kind of like a portal mystery, like these doors. So and that's a lot of fun. She's got a little cute dog companion. It feels very like Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, like kind of that kind of, you know,
yes.
Comforting read with portals sort of worlds. But yeah, it was just okay. I didn't get like fully gripped by the overall mystery and stuff like that. I think that part was lacking. So the world building was cool, but the actual storyline was a bit flat for me. So yeah, but it was fun. And I'm glad I finally got to it as well. And then only 4 more now. So this one is in French because it was my Christmas present from my boyfriend's brother, which is really nice. And it's basically, I don't know if you know Simonon, but it's he's actually Belgian, I think, but he's a crime writer like Agatha Christie from around the same time as well. So it's like it's a series that follows a detective, an inspector, I think, with the police, and this is just the first one, and it was really fun. Set in Paris, so that was cool, and it's just little mysteries by this guy who's kind of a funny character, and he's got like kind of like Poirot kind of thing. Like they've got little quirks, and you recognize them for that, and then that's going to continue obviously throughout several books. And this is 2 in 1, and it's like when he's a young man and doesn't really know what he's doing as well. So that was kind of fun to be like, he has to refer back to his little policing handbook and things to know what someone would do in this situation. So yeah, it was cool, and kind of fast, and a good way for me to get back into reading in French. So liked that. And then The Whistling, which is a Gothic historical fiction kind of book. Like it felt very much like a cross between Rebecca, kind of Jane Eyre kind of vibe.
Yes.
So this is a woman in the 1800s, I think, who goes to be a nanny for a young girl whose brother has recently died, and their mother had died as well. So that classic story of like old deserted house in the country, and there's sort of a ghostly presence there. Something's going wrong. I think this had a really good premise and then just kind of didn't deliver, unfortunately. So it was okay, but I didn't feel scared at any point. And yeah, the like reveal was just okay. It wasn't as like cool as I thought it would be, but it was fun for this time of year. So quick read, and I love the cover because if you look really closely, there's a woman in there.
Oh yes, I see, which I wouldn't have seen from back here.
That was pretty cool. And then just yesterday I finished 2. So first one is one I was desperate to read, Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Yes, Anthony Doyle.
Wrote All the Light You Cannot See. She loved it. It was really good. And this book was good too. It wasn't as good, but it was very good, I thought. It follows 3 different time periods, and it's kind of a commentary on climate change. So it's got one time period in like the 1400s, Constantinople time, one in more present day, so it's like late 1900s, and then early 2000s, it goes up to 2020, and then one in the future where they're on like a spaceship kind of thing. So you can see the progression of humans damaging the environment. The problem that I had with this is, and with a lot of books like this where you're following different time periods or different people's perspectives, is there's always one that you like less. And for me, it was the 1400s one. I just like could not get into that story. So I sort of the rest of it was really exciting. I loved it. Like the current age one follows a very, very troubled character. Not exactly doesn't really go into explaining why they are. So it explains their background and things, but there's something there, like maybe autism or something, as well, that isn't like properly diagnosed. And it follows like a bombing in a library, and there's many different characters whose stories you follow, and you just become very attached to them. And then in the future, you're following a little girl who, for some reason, has been locked in a room.
That's right.
Vault,
That's right.
On a spaceship, and the spaceship is trying to go to a new world because humans have ruined us. So it's very well done, very clever. He's a great writer.
Yes, he's a great writer.
I think the only thing that was holding it back from 5 stars is just that I didn't love that like older storyline. So
no, okay.
Can't have everything. And then the final one I don't have with me because I put it up on a bookshelf so high up I need my boyfriend's help getting it down. And he's asleep. But that is MEDUSA, a MEDUSA retelling by Jessie Burton.
Oh yes, yes. Good.
Yeah. It's kind of like a picture book in a sense. Like it's an illustrated kind of novellery thing. I really loved it. So it's a retelling that gives her own story. So MEDUSA obviously often seen as like it's a monster with the snake hair. She's like the evil villain. But in the actual story of what happened to her is like she was raped.
So it's a bit like we did a retelling here in the theatre of Medea.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that idea. These women who, have kind of dealt, it's a taboo subject. What they've done is a taboo kind of area. Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong, but like I guess history sees it as
as like Medea did do wrong. Medea definitely did.
No. Yeah. But like
that definitely isn't good. But I'm interested, actually, just weirdly lately, in that idea of that particular taboo of, this is off the topic, sorry, Rosie, but of a woman either walking away from or harming her children. I mean, but particularly walking away from seems to be a theme I keep bumping into.
Yeah.
Recent times, and I'm just interested in that. Idea, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you want to be a mother 24/7. And some women really grapple with it, and the telling of that story, and with an ability to create some kind of sympathy in the audience, I think is really interesting. So
they can do that. Yeah, this one was really
different because she was raped, was she?
She was raped by Poseidon.
Right.
And for she was beautiful. So then he decided he wanted to have her.
Yeah.
But it's the whole like spin on it that has been given is that she was like, egotistic or something. Like she loved her own beauty and she was like tempting people, but she didn't do anything really wrong. She just happened to be beautiful.
She just was beautiful. That was her. That was her wrong. That was her crime.
Yeah, how dare she be beautiful? And then Athena gets angry and gives her the snake hair. So after she's been raped, she's then punished for it. So and then if she ever looks at a man, then she'll turn them to stone. So that's like the snake head thing. Anyway, so in this telling, which is beautifully illustrated, like stunning illustrations, that's what really made it amazing. She's with her sisters. They've gone to take themselves away from society on this small island where they would just like live the rest of their days. She has a dog. She just hangs out with him, and then one day the man, oh god, what's the guy's name? He's obviously another Greek famous person. Give me 1 second, I'll find out who it is. Perseus arrives on a boat with his dog as well, and it's like her meeting him, trying to talk to him and become close to him without him seeing her, and then both of them not telling each other why they're really there. It's just it's really well done. I won't spoil the ending or anything like that, but it's I thought it was beautiful. So that one, 5 stars. And a good read for yesterday. And that's it. That's all my reads for recent times. Yeah, they've been pretty good. I still think The People in the Trees was the biggest win for me. Not a very Christmassy
read. Your winner. Yeah.
It was just such a surprise. Like I was kind of reading it just to be like get through it,
yes,
clear my TBR kind of thing. But I was so surprised at how much I loved it. So yeah, really successful. So let me just anyway, we'd love to hear what everyone else is reading at the moment. Did you find any great reads over Christmas? Because I do think it's a nice kind of period after you've eaten a lot to like chill with a book.
It's a lovely time for reading.
Get into a different world. So yeah, please do let me know if you have any new favorites that you discovered over the Christmas period. Would love to hear.
Yes.
And yeah, we'll see you all again next time.
Yes. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye.